Kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling, winning Wednesday. Yes, that day of the week we get to celebrate our wins, but we should be celebrating them as they occur so we get that feeling and it keeps us moving forward onto the next win. Today has been a bit of a struggle, and I suspect tomorrow will be even worse. This is the day in between, and the day in between is yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of when Brad had a procedure done where he was flat on his back for 2 hours, which the doctor knew he couldn't do because he had 2 crushed vertebrae. Tomorrow is the 5-year anniversary of the day that he was in so much pain. In the evening, we had to call the ambulance like around 4, I think it was, around 4 o'clock in the evening. We had to call the ambulance to come and pick him up and take him to ER. He was in so much pain he could not get out of his recliner. And just moving had him in a terrible amount of pain. And that, so June 23rd was the start of his 87-day. He was admitted into hospital. He was in the ER most of the night. He was officially admitted into hospital in the early hours of the morning of the 24th. On the Saturday morning was when he was officially admitted into hospital. Up until then, he was in the ER. And that was the beginning of our 87-day stay in the hospital before he came home for 5 days and passed away. So, emotions have been a little up and down today. It's been a bit of a struggle, but this too shall pass. We will get through. One breath at a time if we need to, 10 seconds at a time. So I always say having a watch with a second hand on it is really good because you can just sit there. And one of the things that's helped me through a lot of times, even when Brad was alive, I learned this one through the caregivers group, was there's times that you just have to sit there and literally watch a second hand going around and go, Lord, just get me through the next 15 seconds. You get through the next 15 seconds, fine. You're just breathing with that second hand. It's just breathe the whole time. It's like, okay, we're done 15. Let's go for 30 seconds. And sometimes that just gets you out of your head and gives you something to focus on, so that whatever it is that you're going through, it's a way to manage what it is that you're going through. It's a high stress situation that you're in, and for me, waiting areas for Brad for any procedure that he had were always the worst ones. I was very fortunate that Brad's best friend Mike flew out back in 2008 when Brad had his first major surgery. That his best friend flew out and was there with us, and he actually sat with me and kept me company the whole time that Brad was having the first surgery and stuff, and helped keep me calm. And then he was there with me too during the first 24 hours after the surgery. It was we had a crazy time on the first day after Brad's surgery. So it was a super, super crazy time. And I can't thank Mike enough for coming out and being there with me during that time and helping me with Brad during that time. And for his gorgeous wife, Rhonda, for dealing with the kids back home so that Mike could come out and be with Brad. And that was huge. That was huge and so much appreciated. And I look back over that whole 9 years, 8 months, and 3-day journey and all the blessings that we had. And a lot of the times I got through it, through some of the biggest struggles through that was just sitting, looking at my watch. Although Brad didn't buy me, in fact, I didn't have this watch at the time. Brad didn't buy me this watch until we were on our first cruise. He purchased this for me on our very first cruise we did, which was in September 2009. That cruise was a combination of celebrating our 10-year anniversary, which had been the previous December, him being cancer-free, and we had started this cruise business 14 months beforehand and had never been on a cruise. So our very first cruise was to Alaska, and he purchased me this watch. It's one of those eco watches where you never, ever need to replace the battery. If the battery starts running low, just let it sit in the sunlight. That's all you need to do. And movement and sunlight, I think it is. I don't remember. All I just know is that this thing doesn't stop. No, that's Brad's watch. And we got Brad a watch at the same time. So watch actually has a black face on it. And that one, every time and there's times I take it out and it's stopped because it has messed it. And so I'll just sit it in the sunlight for a couple of days and it's back up and running again. And but of course I then have to go put it away again and that sort of stuff. And but I still have that watch that we got him at the same time. But this is one of those. I don't even know who the maker is on this thing anymore. I don't know if I can see it on this. Let's see if we can see it here. Nah, where's the phone? Phone magnifying glass. Just using the magnifying glass on the phone, otherwise known as the camera. I don't even know where my watch is. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's a Citizen. It's a Citizen Eco Drive. WR100. Dang. What date does it have on there? The 4th. The date on this, it has one of those little date things on the 3 there, but that's so out of whack. Because I never adjusted it for, like February, I would never adjust it. Now it says the 4th. I don't even know if it will adjust if I try to adjust it anyway. So, but that takes a lot of winding. Although I could go backwards, it would be shorter, wouldn't it, to get to the 22nd? Yeah, but I never look at it anyway because I can't see it. But yeah, so it's been a steady day work-wise. It was very, very quiet at the beginning when I first got on the chat, and then it sort of picked up and just got steady throughout the afternoon and that. And one of those days where you finish one chat and another one comes in, or they sort of overlapped a little bit, maybe. So I got some work done. That was had a productive day today, but it was just a little up and down emotion-wise because of the time of year it is and that sort of thing. So, but I have everything in place that helps with these things, helping remember some of the fun times, even allowing the tears to come, or as we call them, the sparkles of love, even allowing the sparkles of love to flow freely. And that is why I'm also very thankful I work from home and I work on a computer and I don't have to be on Zoom calls because nobody can see the mess that I'm in when I'm sitting there typing through watery eyes, typing away replies to people coming through the help chat, and nobody can see me or the red eyes or anything else. And I'm really thankful that I have really, really good eye drops that help take the redness out of the eyes after one of those things, even though splashing the face. Well, we don't really have cold water in the RV at the moment unless it's refrigerated because the days are so warm out. First thing in the morning, yes, we have cool water, not cold water. But get to like around 10 o'clock in the morning and I've got warm water coming out of the cold tap. Shows you how well insulated an RV is. You have warm water coming out of the cold tap, so you never really have cold water, which is okay because it's kind of at that slightly warmer than room temperature, which is a good temperature to actually drink water at for absorption into the body and everything. It's amazing what you learn on when you're dealing with colorectal cancer and how the body works. And I know more about the digestive system than I ever wanted to know. And Brad discovered more about that too, especially with wasabi. That's a story for another time. That's going to be one of those TMI ones. Actually, I think he wrote about it on his Caring Bridge page. I think he did. I'm going to have to go back and read some of those because that's the first 18 months of the journey. And he didn't put much on during the second part of the journey. We didn't do much on the Caring Bridge for that one. But, sometimes the win is not, it's not a sale. It's not that you've accomplished a goal. It's something as simple as you survived. You got through a challenge that you were going through. That is a win. Like for me, getting through today, even though it's been up and down emotion-wise and swinging left and right and not knowing when the grief's going to hit and it just comes out of the blue and hits you, getting through those moments, those are wins. When you are struggling, any time that you can have a positive, just a spark of positivity in the day, that's a win. It's not always about the sales. It's not always about accomplishing the goals. Sometimes it's just getting through a day and knowing that this too shall pass and that you will get through this. You will be okay. Just keep moving forward. And that was my message when I got to do my presentation, the 2 presentations I got to do this month for the polka dot chapter that I belong to. And my message to them was keep moving forward. No matter what happens, keep moving forward. As long as you've got that forward momentum, you can cry, You can puke, you can fall, you can, hang on, I don't remember all of these things. It's on the back of my t-shirt. You can crawl, you can fall, you can puke, you can cry, and you can, and pain. That's all. Those things are all acceptable, but quitting is not. So the fact that that even if you're moving forward while you're crawling and falling and puking and crying and you're in pain, as long as you don't quit, that's a win. And it's sometimes the road is tough. Keep moving forward, no matter what happens. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Whatever you will never move on from a traumatic episode, but you do learn to move forward, because that thing, whether it's losing a loved one, whether it's being in a major car accident, whatever that traumatic moment is, will always be with you, and you will never move on from it, but you will move forward with it, and learning how to not cope. I don't like the word cope. Taking lessons that you have learned from that traumatic moment and putting them into your efforts to move forward can be a big help. It's not coping, kind of coping, accepting. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know the right terms, but it's it's learning from those traumatic moments. They will always be with you, but it is learning how to deal with them and the emotions that come up every now and again from it, the grief that comes up from it. You go through a traumatic episode, you're going to go through a grieving process. When we found out Brad had cancer, we went through a grieving process at that point. Grief is not just for dead. Grief is loss of life as you knew it. So, you can be going on one day and you're in a major car accident, major life changes, everything else, and you're grieving for the life that you had prior to that accident, because you will never be back at that point again. And even if you make a 100% recovery, you will still not be the same person you were before the trauma happened, before the accident happened, because you have now been through that accident. You have learned a lot, you have grown a lot, and you're now in a completely different space. So there is a grieving process that people go through when a trauma happens. So grief is not just when somebody passes. It happens all day, every day. When you go through anything that alters or does a major change in your life, you will go through a grieving process. First-hand experience on that one. But you move forward, you keep moving forward. And that's the best advice I can always give somebody. If you're going through something, keep moving forward. I don't care if you're down on your hands and knees and having to crawl across the room to get from one side of the room to the other. I don't care, as long as you keep moving forward. That's the best part. When you stop and start going backwards, that's when you're in trouble. If you get to those crossroads, call someone. If you know somebody in a situation where they could get to those crossroads, check up on them, keep in touch with them, all sorts of things. But keep moving. Whatever you do, keep moving forward. It's that forward momentum that is going to get you through to that point where this too shall pass. And I'm not talking about my whole grief process. That will always be with me in some way, shape, or form. And whoever said that time heals is bullshit. Because there are times that I feel like everything just happened yesterday. And we're almost 5 years out. Tomorrow's 5 years since Brad went into hospital before staying for 87 days. There's days that it feels very raw, very real, and very much like yesterday. Grief has no timeline. Some people because of how people are wired, we're all wired differently. We all deal with things differently. So telling somebody to get over it and get on with it ain't going to work. I'm just telling you that. It ain't going to work. And if anybody ever tells me that it's time to get over it, just be thankful that you're on the other side of the screen, because I would slap you across the face. Because telling somebody to get over something and move on, especially something like a death of a loved one, suffering the trauma from an accident of some sort, anywhere, anyway, anyhow, telling them to get over it. Everybody deals with grief in their own way, in their own time. There is no timeline, which is why I don't like the term widow, because it always reminds me of the Victorian times, all those times long ago when you were in mourning, you had to be dressed in black or dark drab colors, and you weren't allowed to leave your house for a year to mourn your husband. and this was on the women. And like the men, they didn't have to grieve for a year. They could be out a month later, finding a wife and getting married again. But the woman had to sit in their house and grieve for a year in their dark drab colors, and that sort of thing. They were officially in mourning for a year, and then after that year, they were expected to be over it and everything else. That's why I was determined I was not going to be a typical widow, because whenever I think of widow, that's what I think of, and the perceptions around that mourning period and everything else. I'm sort of like, no, I'm going to meet grief where it is, where it's at. I'm going to deal with it as it comes along, and I know it's going to come back and kick me in the butt from time to time, and I will deal with it each time it comes back. There is not going to be a sort of like, oh, it's been a year, right, we're done with that. Yeah, that don't work. So, anyway, I don't went on a total soapbox. We're supposed to be talking about wins. But every day you can get through another day when you're grieving, another day that you can take a step forward, another day where you're having to sit and watch the second hand on a clock or a watch just to get you through the next 5 minutes, the next 10 minutes or whatever. I have actually sat and watched my second hand on my clock for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to get me out of the headspace I was in so that I could keep moving forward. And to me, watching that clock, because you're watching the second hand, it's moving forward. It's always moving forward. It's moving it's a forward motion. So with that, you are moving forward just by looking at the hands on a clock. I remember hearing one guy who had some very rare form of cancer. He actually survived, and it had a very, very small percentage rate. It wasn't pancreatic cancer, it was some other rare form of cancer. And he said, the doctors told him the next 24 hours are going to be a make or break. It's, the next 24 hours, it's a 50-50 right now, and the next 24 hours is going to tell us what's going to happen and where we're going to go from here. And he said that he laid there in bed, and at the end of the bed, in most hospitals, they have those nice clean clock faces, and there's usually a second hand ticking around. He said he laid there in bed for 24 hours. He was like, Lord, get me through the next minute. And he would watch that second hand go around. Right, get me through the next minute. Watch that second hand go around. Get me through the next minute. He did that for 24 hours. And when he said, when I hit that 24-hour mark, he said, I knew I was going to make it, because he'd made it through that 24 hours. So sometimes it's just looking at a second hand on a clock or a second hand on a watch just to get you through the next 5 minutes, the next 10 minutes. It was a really cool exercise that somebody told me about, and I can't remember who in my caregivers group told me about that, but it's a tool I have used a lot of times, especially when I get hit the hardest. When I get hit hardest with grief, it's sort of like pull out the clock, sit there and watch that little second hand go around, and just keep breathing. Breathe through the whole thing. But anyway, we're talking about wins, so I have nothing more to say. I'm out of here. I got a pup that wants to go for a WALK, and so we're going to go for our walk. We've had an awesome day today. Even got to take a nap because I was just so drained. I am struggling. Also, the other struggle I'm having is with this health plan that I'm on. It's a lot of food. I don't eat that. I'm going to have a talk with my coach on this one to say I'm struggling with eating the food. And she's going to go, why? It's all foods that you like. I go, yeah, I know, but there's too much of it. But the coolest part about this is the biggest part, is I told her straight off, I said, on my first list of foods that I like was chocolate. And I told her I'm a huge chocoholic. And I said, dark chocolate, 80% cacao, I'm there, and or above, and I'm there. I said 100%, yeah, we'll knock it down between 80 and 95%. I can handle. And she's like, okay. And so she actually put on there a dark chocolate bar I could have at 95 calories. And it had the macro breakdowns as well. Well, I have these little discs. They're about this big of chocolate, and they're about this thick. And these little discs are, I have to have 3 of them to equal the 95 calories and the other macros that are there for the carbs, the protein, and the fats. 3. I have at least 1 a day, on occasions 2 a day. But there's definitely 1 a day of those discs, and I now get to get 3 for desserts. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can. I'm like, oh, I like this plan. But then I'm looking at all the other food, which is all foods that I like and foods that I eat on a regular basis and everything else. And I'm like, I never ate this much beforehand. So But of course, my choices beforehand were mixed in with foods that were not so healthy for me as well. But when I had my good days and I wasn't eating junk food or anything like that, even on those days, I couldn't eat as much food as what's in the day for this plan. It's just, yeah, so I'm going to have a talk with her and say, hey, we might need to do some tweaking. But it's one of the things I'm struggling with is getting all the food in, is eating all the food. I've got breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 3 snacks. So I've got 6 meals in there. I would eat 6 meals fine, but we're talking these have got 3 full meals and snacks. And this time of the year, I'm more about what can I eat that doesn't require cooking. And I just eat small portions. So I'm going to have send a note off to my coach to let her know that I'm struggling with the food. It's not that I don't like the food. I love the food. But there's a lot of it. It's a lot more than I've been eating. So I'll keep you posted on that one. But anyway, I am out of here. I got to go take Zeffie for her walk. She's been a really good girl this afternoon. She even came and napped with me. And she laid so I could actually stroke her back. And then she decided the back was too much, so she rolled over so I could get her belly. So she laid there and got belly scratches. So she was a happy girl. But anyway, we're out of here. Have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. Remember to keep moving forward, and we will catch you guys tomorrow for Thankful Thursday. Hek konera.